Welcome to this midweek podcast. My name's Andrew Wilkinson with Interactive Brokers, and joining me from Chicago, Kevin Davitt, Head of Index Options Content from the Nasdaq. How are you, Kevin?
I'm very well, Andrew. Thank you for having me back. I have no complaints in the world.
The weather's cooled a little bit, and I think we could probably say the same of the market. So earnings have been very strong in general, but is there anything in the tech space that's been a standout for you, or indeed have there been any red flags?
Interesting question. Now, it's funny because it seems like now, and it has been a good few weeks since the primary drivers of the market over the past, let's call it nearly 3 years now, have reported. In my mind, I think the past quarter, a standout would have been Meta. It seems like there's a rubber meets the road moment in the not too distant future where investors are expecting these firms to figure out how to monetize their AI spending.
Mm.
But looking back on these Q2 reports, I recall Meta and its performance of late really being a standout. It became another one of the $4 trillion market cap names and rewarded for their kind of compute spend of late. And then I have to point out that next week we will get Nvidia. And
Yeah.
that sort of tail end of the earnings season, that fulcrum, that focal point continues to be really interesting because I'm not sure if I was talking to you, but I was having a conversation recently about comparing sort of these past few years with the focus on AI to a gold rush of sorts. And the old saying that during a gold rush, you want to be selling picks and shovels or whatever. And really, Nvidia is in that business. And so every quarter, it is fascinating to see what sort of spend the industry has had and how much of that runs through Nvidia chips.
There's a reason I asked that question at the outset, Kevin. It seems once again that it's the big tech names that are dragging the overall market down. What's your take on it?
I don't disagree whatsoever, but I guess my take would be putting that in perspective because since the April lows, let me be clear, breadth has improved, broadened. The market rally has broadened over the past couple of weeks. Now,
That's a
we're
good thing.
talking in mid to late August and over the past handful of days, there has been a rotation out of momentum names and some of the other leaders. So I'm thinking in this situation of something like Palantir, which has been an all-star year to date, but over the past handful of days has been under some pressure. One of the sort of most important things to consider when you're talking about investing versus trading is what's my time frame?
Mm.
And so for those that look at this, and it has been, I think, a potentially rewarding trading market, sure, some of the wind has come out of the sails of a handful of those names. Do I think it is time for concern? Probably not yet, but this point in the year historically, this back to school through September, October, has seen a number of historical challenges. So it's something that I will certainly keep an eye on to see if there's another leg lower.
I recall last year, this time, always at the end of August, we get the Wyoming Summit of Central Banks, and same again this year. And it seems we always seem to run into a bit of a kind of concern that Jerome Powell's going to say something that investors don't like. On Friday, this Friday, he takes the platform again. I'm not even sure what he's talking about this time, but are you expecting a negative reaction?
I think it's funny that two people that follow markets closely, you and I, neither of us could say exactly what that speech will probably focus on. For the audience, this is something that happens annually where there's a Federal Reserve symposium in a really beautiful part of the country. And he'll talk about what central bankers talk about all the time, economic activity, trends, and the data that matters to them. We get in dribs and drabs that information week after week. Now, this year is arguably unique because there has been an unusual amount of sort of attention paid on the desire for the administration to see the US central bank start cutting rates, which has happened in other developed markets. I'm thinking about Europe right now. And so what do I think about that? Generally, I feel like Fed events become a non-event after the fact, but there is concern going into it. And we want stuff to talk about potential catalysts. Do I think that's going to be a real inflection point going forward? No, probably not. We have easy ways to track what the probability of future rate cuts are. The September meeting for the Fed is currently pricing in like an 85% chance of a 25 basis cut. So might we get some clarity and that probability moving slightly in one way, in one direction or the other? Sure, but I think we're going to see some earth-shattering move? I genuinely doubt it.
It's you use the expression non-event, and that's exactly it. If it's a non-event, we can move forward, and whether that means up, I'm not sure. Probably does. But if it's an event, that's the scary thing. Kevin Davitt from the Nasdaq. Thank you very much for joining me this week.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
All right, to the audience, don't forget, subscribe if you like this podcast, wherever you download your podcasts from. Bye for now.
The analysis in this material is provided for information only and is not and should not be construed as an offer to sell or the solicitation of an offer to buy any security. To the extent that this material discusses general market activity, industry, or sector trends, or other broad-based economic or political conditions, it should not be construed as research or investment advice. To the extent that it includes references to specific securities, commodities, currencies, or other instruments, those references do not constitute a recommendation by IBKR to buy, sell, or hold such investments. This material does not and is not intended to take into account the particular financial conditions, investment objectives, or requirements of individual customers. Before acting on this material, you should consider whether it is suitable for your particular circumstances and, as necessary, seek professional advice.